I want to run through this kind of quick because I'm not going to actually go over the story in detail or play any kind of information that appears on this other YouTube channel. But I want to comment my take on this. This was regarding an incident between a reporter and Senator Rand Paul. You know, Ron Paul's son. What happened was it was this Abby Martin, and you know this is on a news unit, blogspot.com. Now I'll take a look at his blogspot every day. I think it's a good alternative news source. You know, it's a legit, true alternative news source, and I know there's a lot of alternative media out there that in fact I don't regard as alternative. You know, so anyway, and maybe this is something I'm kind of alluding to. This is the actual YouTube video that he has posted on his blog, linked or whatever, embedded. But what's going on here is you have Luke Rudkowski. He's basically talking with Abby Martin, and they're both independent reporters. In the case of Abby Martin, she actually is an independent reporter and actually will work for Russia Today. She's an employee of Russia Today. Now, I got an interesting take on this because something doesn't add up with this, but let me give you the situation, the rundown of the situation. Luke was not there. It was actually, he's interviewing her in this YouTube video, and it's the same YouTube video over here. She was at a press conference with Rand Paul. And it appears to me like right after the press conference, she was following Rand Paul, walking away from the press conference or something, asking some kind of questions. And a couple of the questions he asked was, about his association with the Bilderberg Group and that type of stuff. And also, why is he endorsing Mitt Romney when Mitt Romney seems to be against everything that supposedly Rand Paul was for? Now, I think a lot of people understand that Rand Paul is basically a sellout. I don't know if you want to call it that or whatever, but he's not what you consider an alternative constitutionalist type politician, at least in my opinion. I think most of the Ron Paul supporters agree with that. But what happened after this, and this is what they said, she got accused of harassing him, and it was like an actual charge by the police. They're going to have, supposedly it came from, I guess, Rand Paul's office or something. That's the gist I'm getting from it. She's being interviewed by Luke, and that's the gist of the story I was getting, that she was going to be criminally charged with harassment, and they wanted to have her fired from RT. Now, there's another thing coming up, too, and this is where I suspect something. She was there not in a capacity working for RT. She was actually there in a capacity as an independent reporter, but she also works for RT. So when this incident occurred, she was there in the capacity of being as an independent reporter. Now, the one thing I got suspicion of is she mentioned that she has a show coming up, that she's going to head up this show that is going to be like on Russia Today. It's going to be something like the Alana show or something. I don't know. I don't get involved in this Alana show. I saw it a couple of times. It was driving me nuts. I was like, I couldn't watch it. But I'm not saying anything against this person or nothing. I'm just saying that other one I don't like. But what I'm saying is it's highly suspicious. I never heard of a U.S. senator, basically right after a press conference or something, being asked a couple questions, and then he turns around and criminally charges the person with harassment and wants to have them fired from wherever they work. I mean, that's really extreme. I mean, you would think that would be the stupidest thing in the world to do politically. I just can't believe it. I can't believe that. That would be the stupidest thing in the world to do. So I have to figure maybe there's something else going on here. And this is just me thinking this, but I'm having to point out my own twist because I don't think is what is being said here is what actually is what's going on. I think this is actually a nice political publicity type thing for the show that might be starting on Russia Today. Perhaps, maybe she's not even aware of this. I don't know. because I've always regarded Russia Today as false opposition. Even though they're like truthful and you get some good tidbits from them, their main goal is to, you know, have the American people hate their own system, go against everything there is in America. You know, basically that's what they do, because they're not somebody that wants to criticize what's going on in the world, especially in Russia, what's wrong. They will never criticize Putin in a million years. You know, according to RT, you know, Putin's God on earth, and they make him look like that. I say he's a big freaking crook. That's all he is. But, you know, so, like, you know, when her show comes out, it's going to be, from the gist of it I got, is like various things like, you know, people trying to take a camera and film police and they get clobbered or something like that. Stuff doing with the TSA, you know, searches and all this type of stuff. You know, various restriction of freedoms that are going on in the United States. That's what's going to be her show is going to be about, from what I understand. And, you know, how perfect timing that right before this show is going to be launched, that this happens. Now, remember this. Rand Paul isn't with the, you know, the elite, I guess, the Bilderbergers or whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't want to get into this too crazy like, but you know what I mean. He's playing a game with the establishment all the way. That's Rand Paul. So, you know, maybe the whole damn thing's a ruse, for all I know. It could very well be. And, you know, I don't think any show that is actually on Russia Today is going to be independent and truthful all the way. She might be somebody being used as, you know, to convince America. In other words, here you got this young pretty girl. She put on a show and all this kind of garbage like that to get a lot of viewers like that. She was accused by Ron Paul's son of harassing him when she was just there as an independent reporter. So she's a big, you know how that big spiel goes. So it gives a big boost to the show. I look at this stuff like it's all false opposition because, you know, they're not going to allow two things to go outside a certain parameter. You know, Russia Today is going to criticize the West. I know that. But you know what I think is going on? I've always said this, and I've read this for decades ago and everything like that. The main plan is to have, you know, Americans pretty much fed up with their own system. They want to throw it out, and they're going to welcome a modified brand of communism when it's introduced with a human face. That's in the short, you know, I'm trying to give it real fast. But this has been on the works for a long time. If you actually look at some of the smartest, shrewdest people that were running things in the KGB, you know, and you think this stuff doesn't exist today? It exists. It's just modified. You know, I'm a student of Major Golitsyn, and, you know, it's like he stated years before that everything was going to fall apart with the Soviet Union. He said it was a ruse. Came about, and, you know, they didn't kill all these people. What they did was they went from communist to modified capitalist overnight, and they just changed their ways. It's like nobody from the populace went ahead and killed them all. You know, they just changed their ways. That's what happened. You know, some bullshit revolution. So I'm kind of getting into that a little bit because I want people to understand that it's how people get scammed is like the biggest danger. It's always been that the opposition is controlled, and it's only allowed to go so far, and they always use younger people for that kind of garbage. You know? And I'll give you another example. Not a perfect example, but if you remember during 9/11, they had immediately after the 9/11, they had this underground movie that came out called Loose Change. Basically, that was like truth and BS mixed. And, you know, that's exactly how disinformation works. Disinformation is basically you got a lot of truth, but they got a couple target goals they want you to screw up on. You know, maybe like if you have some disinformation out there, you know, it may be something crazy where we can't put up with the Congress anymore, so we're going to have a provision. I don't know. You know, they want you to actually, you know, 90-something% of something could be all good goals, but the main targets is where they want to mislead you to. That's how disinformation works. I'm not sure if this one, and I'm putting this out here as a theory. It's basically a conspiracy theory. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I think this whole deal is a setup. I can't figure, as screwed up as Rand Paul is, he's that stupid to do something like this. But the timing is so perfect with her having a new show coming up on Russia Today, and then Rand Paul saying, I want her, well, not him exactly, but people around him or whatever the hell it is. That's the accusation. Wanting to have her fired from RT and have her charged with harassment of the senator. As, I don't know. It seems a little too outlandish. Just figuring that, she's coming up with this show on RT about these type of situations themselves. So something doesn't smell right with this. I don't know. I try to look up a little bit about these organizations and stuff. I don't know. I never heard of them. But, they're with MediaRoots.org and stuff like that. And that's where she's from. And Luke Rudkowski's from, I don't know what he's from. But you can look at these videos and look at them for yourself. But keep in mind my words, because it seems a little too outlandish. A little bit too outlandish. And I don't know, I guess I got to digress on something because I'm trying to make this fast. But, a lot of times when, say, before the Soviet Union basically fell, there was like Lech Walesa out there with doing all the protests in Poland. I don't know if you ever heard that name. He was the solidarity leader and all this kind of garbage. And I remember reading, it was the ambassador from Poland to Japan. I believe he defected in 1983. It was Stanislaw Rares, I think his name was. And he, very smart in Polish politics. He knew a lot of different things that went on the inside, considering he was an ambassador, right? So he's pretty high up in the government, right? So he knew a lot. He was privy to a lot of things. Now, he's died. I think he died in, I don't know if I got the year right, but it might be, I'm going to guess 2007. I don't know, but it was some years ago. But he used to write articles. I used to read them like, a couple decades ago and stuff about these different things. And it was an independent press. But he was saying that Lech Walesa himself was false opposition. That he was actually being helped by the secret police and all this kind of garbage and intelligence and all this type of stuff. So that was another indication that, the dissolution of the Iron Curtain was a planned game. And I can get into a lot of details. It could probably take too damn long. But I just want to point out this whole deal with her being, charged with harassment or whatever, the senator, and, over a couple stupid questions, and she's an actual press person. She was allowed in there and all this kind of garbage. And the fact that they called up RT to have her fired, and the timing that there was going to be the show with her on there, that her own show regarding, First Amendment rights and things like that, and, different problems with the police and, different things that Americans are going through. The whole thing just kind of just fits. You know what I mean? So I want people to look at this, but on the surface, when you look at this video, you probably wouldn't suspect nothing, but I do. So I want to give you my take on this, and that's all it is. I'll post the links where this can be found. It's actually, you can just look at the News Unit blogspot, or you can actually get it directly off of YouTube. It's worthwhile looking at, but something doesn't smell right with this to me. That's my opinion, but I don't know, you might disagree, but something does not smell right with this. The timing of her having a new show and all this type of stuff. And can you imagine, even a senator that like Rand Paul, who's probably not, I know he's in with the elite and all this garbage or whatever you want to call it, but him doing something that stupid, God, I couldn't imagine anybody doing something that stupid. That that would backfire when you try to accuse a press agent of harassment and stuff, try to have him fired. That would backfire. It's a stupid way to handle things.